Can you tell us a little bit about the Zimbabwe 1994 UFO experience? What happened there, and why was that so compelling?
Sure. What happened there? I'll just move through it quickly and maybe more quickly than the previous story. A school called the Ariel School, Ariel, for those who want to look it up. Private school. I think it's a religious school, or had a religious orientation in the region of Zimbabwe.
Hmm.
Primarily Caucasian students, but not entirely. A successful school. Anyway, one day at recess, just interestingly, just as these things go, almost out of a magical realism type film, right? Like Field of Dreams or so forth. There's a normal, realistic setting. Everything's fine. Kids are sent out for recess. They notice something off in the distance. It is, again, a craft that is hovering, that breaks into at one point it appears there might be multiple craft. The kids begin to scream and shout and run around. The teachers really are all in a meeting. Perfect, right? I mean, that split, perfect. The skeptics would say too perfect.
Yeah.
Because the kids, we know the imaginations of kids. Well, we do know imaginations of kids, but anyway, as it emerged, a young girl named Emily Trim, 8 years old, got closer to the craft, and a being came out of the craft with captivating black eyes, a non-ordinary, not humanoid, but not apparently human. They locked eyes, and she felt mind to mind. She called it, she didn't have the word for it. She said, I got images that the earth was in danger, that we have to be careful with our environment. What a remarkable thing to claim that of all the things that the kids are going to confabulate on. And by the way, the other children, when they were separated from each other, had the same thing. They had these intuitive, uncanny explanations that they were being given information. In any case, they went inside and called the teachers. This is what happened. This is what happened. The response was, oh, the kids are just active imagination. But there were other teachers who saw something too. And then the BBC reported that there was some kind of craft that was seen. So it began to be the biggest. 65 children had seen this, and they were separated by and large. And not at first. They were interviewed together at first, which is problematic because they might build on each other's story. But they were finally separated. They drew pictures. I include them in my book. Drew pictures of these craft that were all somewhat similar, but all somewhat different.
Hmm.
And there was another case that John Mack got very active in from Harvard, flew down to Zimbabwe. And so there were many features. This was, and for me, this is a remarkable case in that the quality of the evidence, the quality of the sightings was quite remarkable. And yet, because they're children, because there weren't many, and there were no adults to corroborate it, it was almost as if the children said, "Isn't it interesting that the adults were all inside? It makes it possible for us, our accounts to be minimized." Very wise. In any case, here's what I found similar interest as to the Pascagoula case. Young Emily was from a family that was conventionally Christian, very conservative Christian theologically, and a mother and father said, Emily, what you say happened, that didn't happen. Wow. That's one really harsh way to put it. It's one way to say it didn't happen. This doesn't happen. God loves us. It doesn't happen in God. It's not part of the plan. So they eventually took Emily and her brother, who also saw these events and described them, took them out of school, went back home to Canada to get away from it. Perfect, right? It's the same thing in the middle of her own rite of passage through this, whatever level of reality. But I think it was pretty substantially physical reality, at least, and with involving paranormal dimensions, including this telepathic communication. In any case, she went back to Canada. Family took her home, and she wasn't doing well for several years because she was living with this thing that was unfinished. Now, any kind of a trauma that is unfinished is not going to resolve itself automatically. There has to be some engagement. So she received a letter of invitation. Hey, Emily, how are you doing? We're your fellow classmates. We're having the 25th anniversary of the school this summer. Could you come back? I know it's far away. Emily put that letter down and she said, I need to go back. So there was a sense of something calling her, and she was fortunate that she listened to that part of her psyche. Her parents said, go back. We'll support you. Well, by that time, her parents had come to realize maybe they had overreacted and by dismissing. So Emily went back, And one of the teachers said, "Would you like to meet with the local shaman, the local wise men? You know, you never met any of the local spiritual indigenous teachers." And Emily said, "I would. How did we happen to go to school here and never make any communication with the local indigenous?" She'd grown, her psyche had become more mature. She was interested in these topics. So she went to see a man named Duke, who was from some shamanic culture, if you will. And he said, "So what have you come to ask me?" And she said, "Well, I want to know what I should do with what happened. Do you want to know if you should talk about it?" She said, "Well, yes, I, stuttered and stammered. "Yeah, yes, I want, of course you should talk about it. It's part of your experience. You were a girl, you were a child. It is out of the mouths of children that we need to hear things. You don't have to have you don't have to understand it all. Tell what happened. Tell it directly. Speak your truth." And so her parents had said, "Don't speak of that." And this spiritual indigenous teacher said, "Shout it. Not just speak it, but shout it from the hills." So she did. She listened. She finished something important in her psyche. She was a young artist. She went back to Canada. Her artwork began to flourish. She had been painting, drawing pictures prior to this, pictures of the original event in black and white that were very somber. She began to draw them in color. So almost like the movie Pleasantville. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where the children, two young people are transported in time, a time travel type story, back to a time like the 50s. Everything was in black and white. And that the culmination of the story was when that became full color and they began to get their full dimensionality back. So Emily got her full dimensionality back. She began to live with this experience. So again, this to me is ultimately, these are spiritual in the broadest sense of the word. Okay. These are spiritual. There's a spiritual dimension to this. Doesn't require belief in religion. Now you can make a distinction between religion and spirituality for sure. One of the most common categories in demographic polls, spiritual but not religious. Large number of people identify with some sense of a larger purpose and meaning that can be called spiritual, but that it doesn't reduce to any particular religious model. And it's very consistent with science. One definition I heard recently: quantum physics is where they hide the scientific part of spirituality. Because what's going on in quantum physics is very, very wild stuff about interconnectedness, photons from, the entangled particles experiment, photons separated by great distance but remaining in touch. It sort of says that the quantum level, if that is indeed the undergirding of our reality, there's deep non-local communication going on all the time. And maybe these events, UFO, psychic, near death, are breakthroughs into that larger realm that are momentary, temporary. And maybe the ultimate idea is we're going to develop into that greater dimensionality where those phenomena will become normal.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, please subscribe to the Freedom Pack channel and consider clicking here to watch another video that I think you'll enjoy.